Well, Muzz, that's the 24-25 season done. Finished tonight, rather disappointingly, 4-1 defeat against Corsham. What were your thoughts on that?
Disappointed with the result, but I thought that, first half, when you look at it, they were a little bit sharper. They've had plenty of games. We were, 3 games in probably maybe 5 weeks. So it's we've lacked a little bit of sharpness, but I thought we competed well. There was some decent stuff, on what was a bit of a bobbly pitch, and I thought we did okay. We put some decent balls into the box. We put them under pressure without making the keeper do too much. But half time, I was relatively pleased that we were in the game. They've had their moments. I think we've done okay, bearing in mind what we've had to do in the last couple of weeks, and we felt the game was there for us to maybe get a result.
Yeah, and probably even after they'd gone 1 goal up, we probably were very much in it. We were just talking just before we started. There was a disappointing 5-minute spell. I think they scored in the 63rd, 66th and 68th minute. That sort of ended the game, I guess.
It ended it as a contest. A little bit, we have to deal with that a little bit better. But I think after we had a good spell before they scored their first goal. I thought we finished the first half quite well, and I think we started the second half quite well. It was a forced substitution which changed our shape a little bit, and we just didn't deal with it as I think we should have. We're all footballers. We know. Basically, you attack and you defend. There's no other options on the pitch. So you have to attack if you've got the ball and defend if you haven't. And we just didn't do enough without the ball in that little spell. And like I said, they were sharp. That's a good movement and some good finishes.
Yeah, you say about the layoff. I think it's 1 game. This was bar tonight. We'd had 1 game in the previous 30 days. Clearly doesn't help the situation.
It doesn't. It's difficult because of how we wanted to finish, but every team talk about momentum at the end of the season. We haven't had that, and it's difficult to bring players in to train. We brought them in last week because we knew we had a game this week, and we worked on a couple of things, which actually we had some moments out of what we worked on. So that was the right thing to do. But there's other weeks when we've had no game, It's difficult to bring players into training. They've got nothing to sort of play for at the end of the week. It's been a frustrating month on what has been at the end of I think a really good season.
Yeah, and you say really good season. At the moment, we sit 10th in the table. Corsham will need a point against Long Levens on Saturday to overtake us. But I think probably worst case scenario, unless my math failed me, is that we'll finish 11th. That's an improvement on 14th last year, so I'm guessing you're pleased with that.
It's a better league position. It's a better points tally. Goal difference tonight obviously might play a key in. Where we do finish 10th would have been lovely. It just sort of sets the tone on the bill for next year. So I'm really pleased. I think, like I said, there's a good group of lads in there. I think there's plenty to play for. I think there's plenty to build on, and if the guys want to stick together, I'm sure we'll have a good close season. Hopefully, get together pre-season and look to recruit in certain areas just to strengthen it, give us that little bit of extra depth, because it just showed tonight that 1 substitution that we were forced to make. We had to change the formation of the team based on just availability. We had 2 defenders unavailable tonight. Which is natural. Every team has that. We just didn't have that person today to replace that person in midfield and keep the shape we had, to be effective. So we had, and that's the difference. I think if we're going to kick on from 11th or 10th, we need to have that little bit of strength in depth. That 18, 19 that want to be in and around the place. Unhappy not to be in the squad, unhappy not to be in the 11, but when they get the chance, they take it.
Yeah, it's going to be a long summer, I think, is probably the easiest way to look at it. No games in April, May, June. I guess you'll look to get friendlies started again in early July. But will you be working hard, I guess, to keep most of this group together?
Yeah, I just spoke to most of the other night. We want to keep everybody here. I think you don't keep building just to then lose players to start again. I think if their ambition matches my ambition, hopefully that we'll build on what we've got. Like I said, I can't fault the lads. We've had a great 8-9 months. We've had some disappointing results. We've had some great results. We've had some good times. We've had some down times. That's football. But I think generally that if we can keep this group together, keep the spirit, keep the vibe, we've got to just get a little bit. We're working on a pre-season plan now. We've got to start the season a little bit better. If we can get off to a better start, that might just kickstart everything a little bit for next season. But yeah, we have a better pre-season, not results-wise. I think just a better pre-season with our fitness and our general how we return back from pre-season. I think 1 or 2 players need to make sure, which whether that's with me or with somebody else, they'll need to return back in a better shape than they did this season if we're going to get off to a good start.
Yeah, well, finally, just a reflection. If you had to sum up the season in one word, maybe 1 or 2, what would you say?
Positive.
Cheers, Modes. Thank you.